Hello and welcome to Meet the Producers, a Brunswick podcast powered by Brunswick Area Television. I'm Ben Staunton, and sitting next to me is a man who once had a boat that had such a large hole in the bottom of it that not even flex tape could fix it, Tom Kepler.
Actually, if you want the full story, the hole was so small that they would have had to cut the half off it to fix it. So it wasn't the big hole, it was just a troublesome one. So when I tell the story, I say it's under a bridge in Cleveland, so people think I sunk it.
I know you wanted to take that boat up to Canada, and just recently when I was in Canada, I got myself a new English to French translation dictionary. So if you ever need to borrow that for any reason, if you go up to Canada, just to let you know I got it.
Okay. There's the fishermen up there generally are they're bilingual. They just speak fish. They're after that.
Well, we're talking to a fisherman today. This guy likes to fish. Why don't you go ahead and tell us who we're talking to on Meet the Producers?
Is that why we started with boats? Because I heard you guys talking about ice fishing.
We were talking about ice fishing.
In Brunswick Lake with the saw guy and the trout and everything. So
we might get all those topics in and more.
He's a man that cares about our community. He's been here for a while. His name is Duane Risko. He's been on the channel for many, many years. We're going to get into those details. First of all, Duane, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, so you just recorded a few shows with Chris up in the studio today, and we figured while you're here, we might as well have you meet the producers today. First of all, let's get into who you are. So did you grow up around town, or are you from
I'm born
Ohio?
and raised here in Brunswick my whole life. I took over my parents' place when they passed away, so I've been here for 70 years living in Brunswick, and it's a beautiful community. I really enjoy it.
You're a lifer just like me. And
You got it. Excuse me, you got it.
If we did the math there's probably 150 years of Brunswick residents in here, more than that.
Yeah, we're racking them up.
So once again, thanks for being in and being a dedicated producer as well, because doing shows takes a lot of time and effort. People don't always realize how much goes on behind the scenes, but you always troop through. So let's go in order, I suppose. I don't know if my order is going to be correct because we're talking about a surprise show that you did, but how about the fire? What is the fire?
The Fire is a show, excuse me, it has to do with topics that people really don't get into. I've always wanted to know the truth in life, all the different religions to start with, and that's basically what it's a show about. Christianity versus the Muslims, the Hindus, the Catholics, the Buddhists, the Protestants, Church of God, Church of Christ, Pentecostal, speaking in tongues, once saved, always saved, hell, judgment, lake of fire. How does one get to heaven? Is there a God? Is there not a God? What Bible is the true Bible? King James, NIV, NLT, all these things I wanted to know in life, and I spent over 30-something years in researching that with great people like Dr. Peter S. Ruckman, Dave Hunt, Cliff Parks, Mark Valenti, Derek Noel, Ernie Sanders, and had guests on where we would turn around and take what everybody else believes and teaches, and then we would take what the Bible said and say, okay, look, we're using the King James Bible as scriptural. What does our Bible say versus what everybody else says, and let's compare notes. And that's what my guests were. So we would bring people in and say, okay, here it is. You can believe what you want to believe. We're not forcing you, but here's the other side. And, that's what we did. We would take, for an example, is speaking in tongues, is that really biblical? And then we would show you what the Bible said. And then we would take what like the charismatic and everybody else and say, well, here's why speaking in tongues is. And then we would compare notes and say, okay, now here's what we said versus what they said. There's got to be somebody's right and there's got to be somebody's wrong. All roads can't lead to heaven, but yet all roads can lead to hell. Well, then what's the one road that gets me out of hell? Excuse me. Well, then we found out that Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and life. No man cometh to the Father but by me. Well, with that statement, that meant that, wow, if Jesus himself, who claimed to be God, who walked on water and did all these miracles, if he said, I am the way, and then everybody else has got all these other ways, either he was God telling the truth or he was the biggest liar to ever walk the face of the earth. So we have to prove, is he God? And what did he say? Well, how can we say it? And that's what the show The Fire was all about.
Okay. And that's a 2-hour program. Usually starts off with you doing a monologue. You set up the show and then maybe feature videos. Is that what the
Yeah, that's what I'll do for my topic. Like, say, if I were going to do the mark of the beast, the Antichrist, one world government, one guy's going to come over here and he's going to make peace with the earth and he's going to do all these miracles and stuff. Then I would show videos by other men who were smarter than me, more intelligent than I was, that researched all this and then would bring the videos to bring into play with the Bible in the book of Daniel, the book of Revelations, to say, hey, if you're an atheist and you really don't believe in God, or you don't believe in the rapture, you don't believe in an Antichrist, you don't believe in a 1,000-year millennium reign, well, check this out what these guys say. Before you make up your mind, always look at both sides of a story, and always look at, in life, it's like anything. Whatever somebody tells you, can you prove what you believe? So look at the other side and find out where we're coming from. And that's what it's been. So we would show the other fires that go into the topic and then say, okay, here's what the Bible says, and here's the videos that these guys proved to show you of why they believe, instead of just taking their word for it. Because I've always said on my shows, can you prove what you believe?
Your show, The Fire, it's been on for almost 20 years. According to our records here, your first show aired on 11/3 of 2006.
Wow. Wow, that's a spell.
So if this podcast has legs for 1,000,000 years, who knows? Today, this is 2024. Yeah. So in 2 years, your show will be on for 20 years. So, I mean, you've been getting a lot of this information out for quite some time right here.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that many years. Well, time flies when you get older, huh? Jeez. Wow, that's a lot of programming. And just think of the shows that we've done in the Fire. Mark of the Beast, Antichrist, 666, Slain in the Spirit, Tongues, the Cross, the Blood, King James Bible, false prophets, false religions, different denominations, false Antichrist, visions, paranormal. Those are some of the topics that we've went over. And a lot of times during those years, every couple of years, I would take a certain show and replay it because it was so good that depending on the climate of the people on the radio and whatnot, I would say, okay, let's run this show again because there's a lot of stuff hitting the airwaves that I disagree with. So let's let these people see for themselves. Because like here in New Brunswick, you've got Catholic churches, you got the Nazarenes, you got the Methodists, you got the Lutherans, you got the Baptists, you got independents, you got community churches. So everybody has their own theory on how you're going to heaven. So if you're going to a church and a place of worship, you're going there because you believe there's a God, and when you die one day, you want to go to heaven. Okay? All of us can't be right. Some of us got to be wrong. Is there a work system? Is there once saved, always saved? How are we getting there? That's what my show's really been. That I firmly believe that there's only one way to get to heaven, that Jesus was God. He shed his blood to wash my sins away. He was whipped, crucified, put on a cross, buried. 3 days later, he arose. He completed the mission. On the cross, he said, it is finished. There's nothing Duane Risko can do to get to heaven, but I put all my trust in Jesus, and I said, yes, I'm a sinner. Yeah, I can never get to heaven. I'm not good enough. My own thoughts would damn me no matter what. I'm putting all my trust in Jesus. So when I die and I get there and I say, Duane, why should you go to heaven? Why should we be allowed in? Because I put all my trust in Jesus and his shed blood, his death, his life, his burial, his resurrection. That's my belief on how I get to heaven. And that's what the show has been. So we take that point of view and compare it with everybody else's. And then, like a lot of other places, they flip a coin and say, okay, if you're more good to more bad, you might make it. Well, in John, the book says, little children, I have wrote these things that you may know that you have eternal life. That's the fire.
Obviously something you're very, passionate about. So.
Yes. It's something that, you got to be willing to die to believe it, And a lot of people do die for false religions. Like the Muslims blow themselves up thinking that they're going to get, so many virgins up in heaven if they do that, Allah Akbar and jihad and all that stuff.
Well, let me ask, just on a production level, your other show is The Fire Report. What's the difference between the two of those? Or is that a spin-off show, would you call it? Or is it just a different focus?
It's a different focus. The Fire Report was, I was sick and tired how the media sold us out. CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, PBS, BBS.
He didn't mention us, Ben.
No.
Yeah, we didn't sell them out because we allow them to be on here, and we see all sides.
Yeah, and Weather Channel, too. I got to throw those guys. And Discovery and History. Here's why. I got sick and tired of the narrative. When I did my investigating report studying under Ernie Sanders, definitely Ernie Sanders, some InfoWars, Joseph Chambers, Tex Mars, all these other independent outlets that did research because they weren't funded by, a George Soros, Klaus Schwab, BlackRock, the Illuminati, the Bilderbergers, the DuPonts, all those with great, great money who bought and paid for all these media outlets. Our newspapers, New York Times, LA Times, Chicago Tribune, the Washington Post, Plain Dealer, Akron Beacon Journal, Columbus Dispatch, the Gazette, they're all slanted far-left Democrat. That's what really ticked me off. I'm like, are you kidding me? We don't no longer get fair reporting. We get opinionated far left. So then I turned around and got videos from Judge Jeanine Pirro, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Tucker Carlson, to name a few. Then I would turn around and I would get videos of floods, earthquakes, massive shootings. I would report, show you stuff that the media hid that I would bring along and say, wait a minute, folks. Again, I say, can you prove what you believe? Follow the money trail. Who writes an article? The Associated Press. Who are the writers of the Associated Press? Oh, research. They're far left. They vote Democrat and everything. They're for complete abortion, even abortion after birth. Oh, they're for open borders. Oh, they're for recreational drugs. Oh, they don't believe in geoengineering. Oh, they're saying climate change. Oh, they're hiding reports about the temperature was in the 20s and the 30s and 40s. Oh, these same people that funded the Ice Age are the same people that funded climate change. So my programming was, wait a minute. I'm bringing in the Epoch Times. I'm bringing in independent reporters that are neither Republican, neither Democrat. They're independent. I turned around and here's shows where scientists from the right that are conservatives, that are Christians, they're not allowed on Weather Channel stations. They're not allowed on PBS. They're not allowed on the History of Discovery Channel. Why not? Why is it only far left? And atheists get to say, this is climate change. This is why the weather is. The burning of fossil fuels are. So I bring programming to say, wait a minute. Take a look for yourself. Here's the other side. Why has our media sold out and not giving us the other side? Why is it when there's conferences, we don't bring in the conservatives or the Christians or the independents? I look at the money trail, and I was taught that by Ernie Sanders and Hal Larson and John McTernan and Mark Valenti, my pastor. We sat down and went all over these notes. There's where the fire report came in, because 90% of all of our newspaper, 90% of all the TV media is controlled by the left. Now, Yahoo, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, they're controlled by the far left. I have been knocked off and blocked how many times? Because I gave you a conservative point of view. I challenged the burning of fossil fuels as heating the planet. I challenged and said, wait a minute. Carbon monoxide makes plants and vegetables grow, and you say we're poisoning the atmosphere? I turned around and said geoengineers have been caught heating the planet, but I have been blocked as community hate speech, blocked as information, disinformation. Not only me, but so many other people. So when I look at that and say, wow, we're censored in the media and the paper, we're censored on TV, now we're censored on the internet. Thank God for Bat Studios, because you guys haven't been contacted yet to shut us independents down.
No, I'm very proud that we welcome anybody. If you have a strong opinion or you want to get involved, or even if you just want to work behind the scenes and learn production, we'll come talk to anybody. You're welcome here, especially when you're hometown boy like Duane Risko.
One other quick point. I'm like Dr. Peter Ruckman says. And Peter Ruckman always said like this, hey, listen, man, I'll give you all the airtime you want. I'll give you a half an hour to say whatever you want to say. No problem. Give me a half an hour to say whatever I want to say. But we're living in America where that ain't flying. That's not flying. We are outnumbered and we are mocked. We are cut off and censored. That should never be in America. When you're censored, no matter what you believe, they're coming after the Catholics for their stand on abortion. They're coming after their Catholics for their crosses that they wear and stuff. They're coming after the independent Bible believers for a King James Bible. When you censor us, that is socialism, that's Marxism, and that's communism, and a lot of people don't even see it.
This right here is freedom of speech at work, if you ask me. So
I'm a firm believer. You can say what you want. Let me say what I want. You can believe whatever you want. Let me believe what I want. But don't tell me what I can drive, and don't tell me what I can eat, and don't tell me what I can say, and don't tell me what I can think. You should be, this is what America was. And you're trying to change America. When Obama said changing forward, he wasn't fooling around.
So let me go ahead and give the times that the shows air. So we've talked about the fire. Let me tell everybody when they can catch it here on Brunswick Area Television. It's Fridays at 1 p.m., Tuesdays at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., and Wednesdays at 2 a.m. So once again, let me say the fire, Fridays at 1 p.m., Tuesdays at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., and Wednesdays at 2 a.m. And then we were talking about the fire report, and that one is Fridays at 9 p.m., Tuesdays at 4 p.m., Thursdays at 4 a.m., and 10 a.m. So once again, fire report, Fridays, 9 a.m., Tuesdays, 4 p.m., Thursdays at 4 a.m. and 10 a.m. So those programs can be watched right here on Brunswick Area Television. They can also be watched online at bat.vibit.com. Those are up there for at least 3 months so people can catch them anywhere. So if you live across the country or across the world, you can watch the fire and the fire report right here.
That's pretty
Brunswick
cool.
Area Television.
yeah, and we also live stream the public channel now. So
Nice.
let's say you don't have a cable subscription that you could watch at home. You could always tune in on vibit.com.
Nice.
Everything goes out live there, both government and public channel there. So we asked about your first two shows. We got very heartfelt answers from you. Let's go ahead and call this halftime
Sure.
in the show. And we'll talk about talking Buckeyes. See how they tied that in halftime football.
I like that.
You'd like it even more if I said something bad about Michigan, I'm sure.
Oh, I'd love that. Yeah, absolutely. Ping-a-ling, baby. Kenny Rhoda would say, ping-a-ling, baby.
Nice. So why don't you go into some details about talking Buckeyes?
Talking Buckeyes, that goes back to Kenny Rhoda. When he first got here back in 1994 in Cleveland radio, I used to call the radio stations, and they didn't want to talk Ohio State. They wanted to talk Cavs, Indians, and Browns. And they used to get sick and tired of me wanting to talk a little bit of Buckeyes. I'm like, wait a minute. The Indians are going to be in the playoffs in 95, 96, 97, and they're playing Penn State, and we're both ranked under John Cooper. And they'd say, Duane, we're not talking Ohio State. Call a Columbus station. They'd hang up. And I'd be like, it just really rubs me the wrong way. We can't talk Buckeyes up here. Why not? Well, Kenny Rhoda came to town, and I says, hey, Kenny. He came in from Pittsburgh. He says, I called in. I says, we allowed to talk Buckeyes? He says, wait a minute. What state do you live in? I go, Ohio. He goes, does the Buckeyes play in Ohio? I go, yeah. He goes, you can call me anytime you want and talk Buckeyes. Well, I used to call in, and I used to always look at the recruits that they're coming in, because that's what I did. I love college football. When I was born, I always wanted, as I grew up, and my dad taught me about Ohio State football, I wanted to be 6'2", 235, play linebacker. God tested my sense of humor. Here I am, $160, and 6 foot, And I've always fell in love with the Buckeyes. That's my number one sport. I'm going to make a long story short. I used to go against the Plain Dealer and the Cleveland Press. Back then, the Press used to come out in the afternoon, Plain Dealer in the morning. And the writers always took the 5-star recruits that Ohio State were getting and would write stories. Well, I was like, wait a minute. I would be looking at guys who are 3 stars, and I would do my own research and say, okay, for an example, this is what got me on the radio with Kenny Rhoda. I find a guy like A.J. Hawk, 3-star. I'm reading up about him on my own. A.J. Hawk would be the first one in the weight room, the last one in the weight room. He'd be the first one to set up the film projector and the last one. He would be after school and after working out. He would be working out. And I'd say, Kenny, A.J. Hawk's going to, I'd get on the radio, he's going to be the next great Ohio State Buckeye. And he's only a 3-star. Well, meanwhile, all the writers, even in Athlon, Sports, Street and Smith back then, they always wrote articles on the 5 stars. Well, here's this guy from Brunswick, Ohio, carpet installer. He's calling in on radio shows, putting his name out there saying, A.J. Hawk's the 3-star, going to be an All-American. Well, he's all Big Ten, he's all Big America. Then he says James Laurinaitis. James Laurinaitis comes from Minnesota. He's a 3-star. I get on the radio. He's going to be the next great. He's going to be the next great. Well, next thing you know, he's All-American 3 times and a pro, yada, yada. Kenny gives me a phone call one day and says, hey, how would you like to do a radio show with me in Northeast Ohio? There's never been a show in Ohio up northeast, north of Canton, that's strictly Buckeyes. I said, sure, I'd love to. I go, but Kenny, you could get Chris Spielman. You can get anybody else that you want to do the show. Why me? He goes, listen, you've been calling in and you've been coming up with all these different players, and we write the names down and you say, watch, they're going to be great. And Duane, you've been hitting most of them all Big Ten and All-American. Yeah, I want you to do a show. And then he says, I'll let you pick the name of the show. And I'm thinking, I'm talking to my mom. I says, Mom, they're letting me do a show. Me and Kenny, we're going to be on WKNR, our first Northeast Ohio show. I go, what should I name? He goes, well, pray to God and think about it. So I says, Kenny, how about Inside the Buckeyes? He goes, ping-a-ling, baby, the way we go. And that's how that started. So from 2002 to 2010, we had the first Northeast Ohio show called Inside the Buckeyes on 850 WKNR. When they finally, in 2010, they canceled it, they got rid of Kenny Rhoda, they got rid of Charles Bentley. The programming at KNR just basically cleaned the slate with Ohio State football. They don't talk it anymore. Even you got WKNR, ESPN Radio, they don't talk Ohio State football. You got 92 to Fan, they don't talk Ohio State football. Dennis Menloff at 1100, he'll throw some Ohio State football. The only time these guys over here talk about it at 8:50 a.m. is when they know Saturday's rolling around. They'll have a pregame and a postgame because they have the show on, or they have the game on, and they want to get the check. So they got to talk a little bit of Buckeyes. But with Kenny at WHBC 1480, since that show folded up, he went there with Jeff Turk. They still give me 12 to 14 minutes of airtime during the season. We can talk all the game and stuff, and we have great conversations. Now we still got Ohio State talk, which led me to do Talking Buckeyes here for our local, because our radios don't get it no more. We hardly talk about it over here. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do my own show, and then I'm going to give you highlight videos. I'm going to show you players. I'm going to do interviews with coaches. I'm going to give you people in Brunswick that love the Buckeyes. I'm going to give you a show with my opinion that I try to give you an educated cast, be fair as I can, and yet give you good videos and insight to get you hyped up. And if you look at it, the last 3 years, the last 5 years that Coach Day's been here that took over, well, let's go back. John Cooper, 2-10-1. Jim Tressel was 9-1 against Michigan. Myers was 7-0. Coach Day won his first one in 2020. They backed out, chickened out under COVID, and he lost 3 in a row. But you've had the talent since Day got here to compete for a Big Ten championship and a national championship, and look how close we are. And that's what my show's been, to keep the fire going that the radio stations in Northeast Ohio dropped.
Okay. I love that show, and I know Chris gets a kick out of talking about college football. That's one of his passions. So whenever you're in doing that, he gets a kick to see it too. What show's next on the list, Ben?
Well, Talking Buckeyes, I just wanted to say that show is not always on, so it's not a regular series like the Fire and a Fire Report. So check the listings when you are on our website, brunswick.oh.us, to find out when that show airs, because it comes in and out depending on the season. So
right.
People can check it out and find out when it will be on the playback schedule. And also, well, In the Spotlight. In the Spotlight is one that you came to us and said, hey, these songs aren't getting much airplay, people aren't hearing them and everything else. Why don't you tell us a little bit about In the Spotlight? Who is In the Spotlight?
In the Spotlight has been music from the past that we no longer get. It used to drive me and my friends up a wall. We'd be working and they'd be listening to the radio on, and I don't care what FM station you put on. It's the same 25 songs over and over and over. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. Continuously you hear the same songs from the same groups. Now mind you, there's over 50,000 songs. All these artists, from country to country western to rock, progressive, hip hop, whatnot. Each artist has got what? 5, 10 albums. Imagine how many songs are on each album, and we're going to hear the same 3, 4 songs year after year after year. They no longer play new songs, and it's like you've got 4 major radio stations, and it's like they program a disc or a chip to rotate the same songs on a 24-hour circle. I says, you know what? This is ridiculous. Great music with great video. So what I had to do, I would have to sit down and research the song on video on YouTube. And that, let's say, for an example, Home Again song. There might be 5 to 10 videos of Home Again by 3 or 4 different artists. And they're not all good. But 1 or 2 might be gold to where, yeah, remember this. I did some country, some old country. You know, where you hear songs that you never hear anymore. Patsy Cline, do you ever hear Patsy Cline anymore? You know, the songs like that of the past, Johnny Cash and them. And so I went from era to era to era, to gospel, to Christian, you know, to Mercy Me, Casting Crowns, Steve Ragsdale. Stuff with videos that you never hear that takes you down memory lane. And I tell you what, when you tune in to In the Spotlight, you're going to sit back and say, wow, I haven't heard that song in years. It's going to take you back to memories. There are certain songs that when I hear, it reminds me of Rhonda. Certain songs that reminds me of Bonnie. Certain songs I remember reminds me of Kathy. That's just the way I'm wired, man.
Takes you back.
Oh, it does. And there are certain songs of gospel hymns that reminds you of my mom, my dad, my grandpa, and all them. And that's what In the Spotlight is. It'll take you to memory lane. That's what is unique about it. Plus the good videos. You could sit there for that hour and there's no commercials. That's what's beautiful about it. And it's going to just take you back because music is universal.
I agree.
That's what In the Spotlight was all about, to bring you back memory lane and to hear song. And plus, I played some songs that are on different CDs that never got airplay that should have. But the powers that be. Now, I've wrote letters back to WMMS, WNCR, WKDD, and I've asked programming, why do you guys play the same songs off the same albums and you never research anything else? Do you know not one of them ever answered any of my letters? It's we own the airwaves, you don't. You don't like it, turn the dial. Too bad. Okay, tune in a bat station, watch In the Spotlight. You'll get something really good.
There you go.
I think it's because they're all conglomerated now. There's one guy sitting in L.A. telling, well, I'll check in the list, play these ones. So when I first introduced you, I kind of wanted to ask how you heard of Bat, why you came in the first time, but I got a little spoiler. I asked Ben when he first met you, and he had an interesting story that he said he wouldn't tell me until the microphones were turned on. So I'll let Ben take it.
See, that's Bat. Keeps you in the dark, but they're in the air.
There you go. So back before the first fire, back in 2006, you came in and you were part of like a softball league over at Nura Park.
Yes.
And you came in and you said that you wanted to start putting the games on with play-by-play. And so you learned how to run the camera and everything else. You took it out. You took it over there, but something happened and you weren't able to do the play-by-play that night. So you came in afterwards and did play-by-play in the editing room. And we aired that show on Bat, and that was the first time I met you. And that was the first program that I know of that you put on. And then probably about 6 months later, then you called us and said you had another concept that you'd like to do, and you'd do it in a studio. So, yeah, your first show was actually the softball game that you had over, I think it was like a playoff or something.
Yeah. We also did an all-star game. A gentleman came up to me the other day out in Medina, because I play in a 50 and over league, which first started off with Dennis Jolly. And he come up and says, Duane, you probably don't remember me, but you and Kenny Rhoda did the all-star game up in that booth over at Nura Park. And I was like, oh, my God, I forgot all about that. So Kenny Rhoda came out, and he did play-by-play while I was a color analyst that night for an all-star softball game in Brunswick. Wow, and I forgot all about that. I did it first with you. You're right, that completely gone. See, I had a senior moment. Never remembered that, see?
There you go. So that was your first official show on Brunswick Area Television, which predates 2006.
Yeah. Blast from the
If
past.
you find that, there's one for the archive. Let's rerun that.
Oh, I would love to re-air that. That'd be great if you could find it somewhere in your house.
I know I got some stuff from a VHS in my archives. I probably have upstairs 200 VHS games from the John Cooper era and stuff that I used to record. Even when I was going, I used to do Columbus 3 or 4 games a year, and I did every Ohio State game from 1994 to 2008 till my mom got sick. And I would have all these. I got big boxes of all the VHS games that I recorded. And somewhere along the line, I probably got that in there. I'll have to go check that out one day.
Okay, and I want to compliment you because we did not have to teach you how to address a microphone. You mentioned Kenny Rhoda and the Inside the Buckeyes show, and Ernie Sanders, and I know he has you involved with What's Right and What's Left. When we started doing podcasting here, you started submitting some of the shows you sat in with those, with the What's Right and What's Left show as podcasts for our public podcast page. So you're well versed in using a microphone, and I think that's great. I kind of want to know. Overall, we hit a lot of different topics here. Yeah. What is your motivation? Is it that you want to share your passions with other people? Is that you want to help save other people? Is that you want other people to enjoy the things you enjoy? What fuels Duane Risko?
I always want to know the truth. My
Okay.
mother and my father, growing up as a young boy, said, "Son, there's truth and there's lies. And before you open your big mouth, make sure you know what you're talking about. Once you get the reputation of a liar, you can never erase it. So whatever you study, make sure you know what the opposition is saying and teaching. And then when you do your research, make sure you know what you're teaching, and that's how you find truth out." So I've always wanted to know the truth. What is really going on with nutrition? It's another thing with holistic doctors versus MDs. When you find out the difference between those two, they're shocking. And I've always wanted to help people my whole life. I preached at a prison. I had a nursing home ministry with Don Pagello from Grace Baptist Church. And I've always wanted to know what's the other side and what is this side? What is really right? What is really wrong? And once I learned that, and I know for a fact that I'm willing to put my life on the line of what I believe, then that's what I would air. That's how I taught people how to fish, taught them how to hunt, taught them how to play ball. I was a coach for many years in softball, taught a little bit of baseball, football. You learn to help people, to motivate, to achieve the truth. Once you know the truth in life, now you graduate from a hyena to a lion. A hyena accepts anything. They hunt in packs. They follow the masses. A lion is strong and independent because he knows who he is, and she knows what she is, and how you get by in life. The more truth you know in life, the more grounded you are as a human being. And that's what a lot of the programs. Now, for the Ohio State, for the talking football, that's just a sport. That's recreational. That's something that we can share no matter what religious or political beliefs. We can share that together. When it comes to religion, there's dividing lines. Jesus made it perfectly clear. Separate yourself according to doctrine. There's a right and there's a wrong. When it comes to nutrition, there's good food and there's bad food. There's good chemicals and there's bad food. There's good doctors and there's bad doctors. Is chemo the right way? No, I disagree with it. No one should ever take chemo. I think a doctor should take chemo first before he puts somebody on it. I believe with the holistic. I show a lot of stuff on my shows about taking liquid minerals, liquid vitamins, bee pollen, raw honey, detoxing. These are the things you talk about a passion. Yeah, I hate liars. I cannot stand deception and false liars. I've told everybody, if you can prove me wrong, bring it. Bat Studios right here. It's easy to find out where I live. It's easy to find on the internet anymore. Prove me where I was ever wrong about talking about chemtrails or burning of fossil fuels or holistic doctors versus chemo and all this other stuff. That's a passion of telling the truth. Now, when I first did this show years ago, in 2007, I was interviewed by the Post up at Laurel Square. And one gentleman asked me, he goes, well, how do you think the audience is going to take to you? And my remark that I have in my desk is, I expected 85% of the people to not like me because I'm going to come across as arrogant, bold, and obnoxious to a lot of people because I've done my research and my homework and I've weighed the facts before I open my big mouth, before I sit on the radio with Ernie Sanders in 15 major cities, before I sit in front of a TV camera and my DVDs go across America to a lot of different people and they show it to their friends. If I'm a liar, it'll come back and bite you. So I always put it out there. Can you prove what you believe? And if I'm wrong, show me. I'll sit down with you. Show me where I was wrong. And I haven't yet to have anybody other than cuss at me, holler at me, call me names, but they won't sit down and have dialogue. That's what you'll find in life.
All right. Well, I truly appreciate you as a public producer. When volunteers use a studio and think it's beneficial for getting their voice heard, I truly love it. That's the truth. So you can fact check that.
Yeah.
Ben, is there anything else we should mention, or how about the show times for in the Spotlight? Is that running now?
Yes, In the Spotlight is airing now, and that can be watched here on BAT's public channel on Tuesdays at 5 p.m., Wednesdays at 8 a.m., and 1 p.m. and 8 p.m. And that was a little confusing, so let's try that again. It's Tuesdays at 5 p.m., Wednesdays at 8 a.m., 1 p.m. and 8 p.m. So all of those times are Wednesday times. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays right here on Brunswick Area Television. You can also watch it on bat.vibit.com. So Duane, would you recommend that people, come in and do their own television shows right here?
Absolutely. If you've got a desire, I don't care if it's a comedy show, if it's a health show, if it's about lawn and garden, political, whatever you have a desire to do and you wish that you'd like to get your expression out, I say come on up to Bat Studio because the people here, they're going to treat you as if they've known you your whole life. They'll help you, and don't ever feel that, well, I'm not smart enough, I can't do this. They'll help you. They'll make you feel comfortable. They'll go out of their way. Definitely come up and do a show. Why not? What do you got to lose? You got everything to gain and nothing to lose.
That's right. Unless you come in here and break stuff, then we'll charge you.
Then
otherwise, it's all free.
Yeah,
there's one quick thing I would like to say to you people out there listening, since this is going to be a podcast. I would recommend you to go on YouTube and watch videos on Dr. Hyman, Dr. Glidden, Dr. Axe, Dr. Berg. These are holistic doctors. The one thing the medical profession will not allow you to say is the word cure. You would lose your license if you say the word cure for anything. But go watch them and check out my show called The Fire Report. I have videos of those doctors, how they can change your diabetes, your heart condition, your rheumatism, your inflammation, your gut, your autoimmune system, and things that you're going through. And definitely, I want to thank Bat Studios. Get up here and do a show. Come on, get in and do your own show.
Duane, it's been a pleasure. It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us today.
God bless you guys, and go Buckeyes.
And before we take off, that sounds like a great invite to you to give us a call at 330-220-1726 so you can come in and do your own television show, podcast, or, just come in and learn how to use the equipment and help somebody else out.
Or at the very minimum, thanks for listening. We appreciate you, Brunswick.
Thanks for listening.
BAT government programs are produced by Chris Golian, Tom Kepler, and Ben Staunton. You can find this and other Brunswick podcasts at www.brunswick.oh.us under the Brunswick Area Television Department. Feel free to reach out to us with topic suggestions or comments. Thanks for tuning in.